Welcome to the How to Health podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marvis, and today I'm so honored to have Miss Sarah Goodenough. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, and thank you for taking time out of your crazy busy schedule. I mean, you got a lot going on, so I appreciate you taking the time to let me interview you and share your amazing story with the listeners, because I think you're going to have a lot of insight to share, and I'm excited to hear about, especially your medical field and everything. So, well, let's just
Yeah.
get started. I mean, you have an incredible weight loss story. Can you tell us a little bit of kind of in the beginning, where did that weight start coming on, and what was the story behind that? What was going on exactly?
Yeah. Once I graduated from high school, I moved to Boston for college. And I'd say the weight gain started my senior year of high school. I had switched schools senior year. That's always a pretty difficult time to like transition to a new high school. And I just kind of was going through a lot emotionally, and I turned to food for comfort. Um, so, of course, it was the bad foods because those are the ones that feel comforting at the time. And I started to put on weight then, and then I moved away to college. And when I was in college, it was just craziness. So I didn't really cook much. I ate out all the time, generally fast food because that's all I could really afford. And it was my freshman year of college when I like seriously started putting on weight really fast, to the point where my mom and my doctor thought maybe there was like an underlying health issue, but they checked the thyroid, they did all my blood work, everything came back normal. But it was just coming on really quick. And I ended up, I can't remember what my starting weight would be, if you even want to call it that, but I put on a lot of weight. And I remember being in college, it was like my first and second year, starting to not fit in any clothes, and all I could really wear were like sweatpants all the time. And it definitely became a more and more depressing time. And obviously, the more depressed you get, the more you eat. So before I knew it, I was almost 300 pounds. And I moved back to Rochester. And once I moved back to Rochester, that's when I started nursing school. And once I was in nursing school, I was still very heavy. I'd say my senior year of nursing school was when I really started to think about, what it was doing to my health and my body. My health had just really deteriorated. My asthma was really bad. Physical activity was just something that was really difficult for me. And a friend of mine in school who was vegan recommended that I read The China Study. And I always took her book recommendations because they were always really good. So I ordered it on Amazon and I started reading it. And yeah, that's pretty much when I started to transition to a plant-based diet. And there were other factors that contributed to it, not just my weight and my personal health, but in nursing school and being a nurse and seeing, after reading the China Study, seeing and knowing that a lot of these diseases that my patients were suffering from were preventable with diet and nutrition. And so like after knowing that, it's like, oh my gosh, like how can I like just stand here and take care of these patients and be this heavy and tell them like, oh, they should eat healthy when I myself am obviously not eating healthy. So that's when I started transitioning to a plant-based diet, and yeah, the rest is history.
Wow. So what year was that?
That was 2000, oh gosh, 2008, 2009 was when I
2009.
started.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible. So you started the plant-based diet in 2009. And how rapidly did you lose the weight?
Well, when I first started, I waxed and waned a little. So I cut out like the processed meat, and then I cut out like cheese, and then I would like eat cheese once in a while. So eventually, after doing that for quite some time, and I still managed to lose weight. I managed to lose like 30 pounds at that point. But eventually I was like, all right, I need to just do something. So I went cold turkey, 100% plant-based. I even did the whole oil-free thing. And I was like, I'm going to do this for 3 weeks. And if I absolutely hate it and don't want to do it anymore after the 3 weeks, then fine, I'll go back. I'll try something different. So I did it for the 3 weeks. I felt better than I had felt, and I couldn't even tell you how long, but it was definitely a positive change in my life. So at that point I decided to just stick with it.
Yeah.
I lost about 100 pounds the first year after I had committed to it. So 100 pounds. I didn't really work out. I didn't exercise. I walked a little bit here and there. Like I said, I had really severe asthma, so I was on steroids constantly. I was using a nebulizer treatment daily, inhalers all the time. So physical activity, even once I started to lose the weight and feel better, I was nervous to like run or do any kind of like, extreme physical exertion because I was afraid of that like tight feeling in my chest. But eventually I decided to sign up for this class, and I started by like running for a minute at a time. And once I started doing that, it just kind of built up the endurance. And now I'm doing half marathon. I did a half marathon this year. I'm doing my first full marathon next year. So
Awesome.
It's like a total 180.
Now, are you off all medications?
Completely.
Wow. And you have
completely.
no exacerbations with running. Your breathing's great when you're running, no problems, no pre-dosing.
No problem.
That's incredible.
Nope. And I did the pre-dosing for a while. I would just do the inhaler. I didn't even think about it. I didn't feel anything coming on. I would just, out of habit, do it before I would work out or run.
Yeah.
And then I ran out of my inhaler, and I went through this little period of time where I didn't have health insurance. It was like a couple weeks, and it was literally the time I ran out of my inhaler. And I'm like, oh, I got to run. So I'll just run a short distance. I'll run slow. And I didn't have any issue whatsoever. So I'm like, I wonder if I can run without this now. And I haven't needed it since then. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That is really cool. Yeah, asthma is one of those diseases that do really well with the diet. And that's
yeah.
Now, did you have any other health issues or any other medications that you stopped?
Yeah, so I had, I was actually diagnosed with fatty liver disease right around the time that I decided to read the China study and change everything. So like I said, there was many reasons that I decided to completely overhaul my lifestyle, and that was one of them. I had a lot of like weird symptoms, nausea, vomiting, and when I went to the doctor, she took some blood work, and based on the blood work, she called me and said I needed to go in for an emergency ultrasound. So I went in for the ultrasound, and that's when they saw that I had fatty liver disease. She had originally thought it was a gallbladder issue, but when she talked to me about it, she said somebody this young should not be diagnosed with fatty liver disease. That's something more like middle-aged people would be diagnosed with. So she told me it had to be, it was 100% nutrition and diet related. And she asked me if I wanted to go to a nutritionist. And I said no. And I told her that I was going to try and do it myself. And that's when I made the full commitment to do the 3 weeks. And yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. Yeah. I've seen my youngest patient that I've seen with fatty liver was 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my, I was 23.
Yeah. 11 years old with elevated liver enzymes, had to see a specialist. We put the whole family in the plant-based diet, and it cured itself in 2 months. So
wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that's so great. I love it.
It's insane to me why doctors. I mean, I could go off on a whole other tangent on that, but we have so much more to talk. So your total weight loss now has been
158 pounds.
158 pounds. That's incredible.
Yeah. So I started at 300, so that's over half my body weight.
You lost a whole you. You lost a whole.
I literally did a whole Sarah.
Oh my goodness! And the China study was the first book that I found too. So that's what started my my travel down this path. So now there's a lot of things that have been going on in your life besides being a nurse, and you have 2 little people that are 7 and 4. What are their names?
My 7-year-old is Sammy, and my 4-year-old is Luke. And awesome. They're amazing. They're awesome.
I've seen pictures, and they are adorable. And so how did they do? How do they like their vegetables and everything? How has that been?
That's been good. So Luke, I was already 100% plant-based by the time I had Luke. So I was pregnant and plant-based, and then once he was born, we just kept him that way. And it's great because he's not very picky about what he eats, which is nice. My oldest was a little, that was a little bit of a transition because he was just kind of used to, eating like chicken nuggets and things like that. And once we, made like tofu chicken nuggets, and now his favorite restaurant is the Red Fern, which is this vegan restaurant here in Rochester. And they literally beg to go there. So it's definitely night and day difference from when he first started to now. But yeah, it's great. I mean, they picked it up very well.
Well, it's good that you did it so early on because my kids
Yeah.
were 13, 16, and 18 when I brought it home. And that was almost 6 years ago. But everyone's plant-based, the husband, everybody. So we're good now. It's been a challenge. But I'm curious, so now your mom saw you obviously sick. You mentioned your mom when you were in college gaining this weight and the doctors. And so what did the doctor say? Did the doctor say anything like, wow, what'd you do? I mean, was there any changes?
Yeah, my doctor was amazed. So I went to her, that was pretty much the last time I had gone to her for a while. And then I went a year later and she was just like, what happened? Like, what are you doing? Yeah, I was really bad at following up with my appointments, which was not good. But she was just kind of like, what have you been doing like these past few months and like what's going on? And, I told her about my transition and she was just she loved it. She was 100% behind it. And actually my son, both my kids' pediatrician was my pediatrician. And she was 100% behind it, like loved that we were implementing it with the kids. And to me, that was great because there aren't a lot of physicians that are,
Right.
well, at least, a few years ago, there weren't a lot of physicians that I knew of that were advocating for a plant-based diet and
Right.
especially for kids. And she was very supportive.
Cool. Now, did your doctors make any personal changes that you're aware of? The
I
pediatrician or
don't
your
know. I don't think so. I know that I'm pretty sure my kid's pediatrician, she eats primarily plant-based.
Okay.
She's always been very healthy and she's always ate, primarily plant-based even before all of this ever happened. So once I went that way and she saw me lose all the weight and get so healthy, obviously she was my doctor growing up and I had asthma growing up. So I had a lot of health issues even before I had put on the weight. So for her to see that I had reversed those, she was just ecstatic, which was great.
Wow. That is really neat that you're taking your kids to your own pediatrician when
Yeah.
you're doing it. That is
Yeah,
really
I know. I
awesome.
love it.
Yeah,
It
as a
is.
family doc, I love taking care of generations. I had
Mm-hmm.
grandma and grandma, great grandma, and the mom and the baby. That was a really cool thing to do. Awesome.
My primary care physician now is actually my parents too. So
Really. See,
yeah.
that's the best part about being a family doc. It really is, or internal medicine. So okay, so you lost 158 pounds, eating plants, you're running, you're healthy, and you're a nurse, but that wasn't enough. You had to go and start something, a whole nother venture. So tell me more about Kitchen Verde.
Yes. So I actually went back to school 2 years ago. I went back to the University of Rochester to do a post-bac pre-med program. And when I was in that program, I was trying to think of what I really wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to do something more hands-on, like more active than what I was doing as a nurse. And I did the program. I had a friend at the time who was a bodybuilder who was having a lot of health issues, and the symptoms he was complaining of were symptoms of like high blood pressure. So I did take his blood pressure every day for, I don't know, maybe it was a week, and it was consistently high. So it was like 160s, 170s systolic. And he was only 30 at the time, but he was also eating, and this is, well after I had read the China study, and I'm watching him eat his food all the time. And I was constantly like throwing jabs at him, like, oh, you're eating that steak right now. Like, that's so bad for you. So eventually when he like firsthand saw that he was getting high blood pressure and, he was feeling the symptoms of it, he said, all right, my life is in your hands. Let's just try this plant-based thing. So I meal prepped for him. He went grocery shopping with me. He helped me cook the food. Um, I did all of his meals and macros, to make sure he was getting enough protein because that was his main concern. And after 3 weeks, his blood pressure was completely normal. And he was like, you should totally do this for other people. And at the time I'm working full time as a nurse. I'm in school. I have 2 kids. Like, I'm like thinking to myself, like, oh, I could never just like cook for a living. But then I don't know what it was in me. I just decided to do it. And, I did it for friends and family, and the word kind of spread. And eventually I couldn't do it out of my house anymore. So I started doing it on the weekends after working a full week as a nurse. Weekends I would cook all the plant-based meals and then I'd deliver them after work on Mondays. And we did it out of a restaurant kitchen for a couple months and then outgrew that. And now we're in a big commercial kitchen and we've been there for about a year. So,
Wow. Now, and
yeah.
you're still working as a nurse?
I am per diem.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're still working per diem as a nurse, running this business, but then, oh no, there's another thing you did. It's like People Magazine called. What's going on there? So I don't look back to Sarah. So tell me about People Magazine. I mean, what is that about? What happened here?
Yeah, that's probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. But I got an email on my business website from an editor from People, and she said that they were having this issue. It was 100 pounds down, so it was for women. They picked like 4 or 5 women across the country that had lost over 100 pounds and then done something inspirational or something, based off of that. So she emailed me and I emailed her back and said, yeah, I would totally love to do it. But she told me that they were kind of going through a bunch of people, and they would let me know the final pick like in a couple months. And I hadn't heard from them in 2 or 3 months. So I just kind of thought that it was over. And then I was at the kitchen one day and it was an evening and I got a phone call and it was like a New York City area code. And I just answered it. And she was like, hi, this is Julie from People. We picked you to be in the magazine. And of course, I was just ecstatic. And they said, we'll let you know like all the details. But what they did was they flew us to Key West. That's where we did the photo shoot. Oh. And we stayed there for a couple of days and we talked. We did some video interviews. We did, the photo shoot with all the rest of the girls. And it was just a really fun experience. And it was cool because with each girl, every girl had a different way that they had lost the weight. And I loved that they allowed us to kind of highlight, how we lost the weight and what type of lifestyle change we made or diet change we made. And that was what I thought was pretty cool about it. So
yeah, definitely. And it's a beautiful picture of you with the layout.
Thank you.
It's incredible. So when they found you, what were the other stories? Because I didn't see that magazine. I've seen pictures of your layout. What is the other stories? And did you get to speak to the other girls or the ladies about what you've done and the health component of that? Because honestly, I don't know of any other healthy way of doing this. And so I'm curious what those conversations were like for you and with them.
Yeah, they were a great group of girls. Like we all just got along so well. And I think a lot of it was because we could all relate so well to each other. We had lost so much weight and here we are, in our new bodies, but we all still have like that same experience of being extremely overweight and the determination that it took to lose all of that weight. So we really like connected and bonded instantly. And I love those girls to death. But we all had like very different ways that we lost our weight. One girl did the Atkins diet. So she had done that diet. And then I think another girl, she just kind of planned her macros out. So she like followed her macros and used like one of the apps that you use. Another girl, I can't remember what she did, but there was just kind of like a lot of like different diet plans that they used that worked for them and helped them keep the weight off. I myself tried a couple of those things in the beginning. And for me personally, it just wasn't something that I would be able to sustain. And that's something that I recognized like early on when I started doing that, only because I'm not very good at like sticking to something that I have to like think a lot about. Right. So like counting macros, I tried that. It was just too much work for me. I tried Weight Watchers and counting the points, too much work for me. Atkins diet, I think I read a book about it and I decided not to do it because it just didn't feel good for me. But the thing that I loved about the plant-based diet and the one thing that I felt was like a great advantage that I had was I didn't have to count calories ever. I never measure my food. I don't have to like weigh my food. I literally just eat whatever I want, whenever I want to eat it. And the thing about like the whole lifestyle change and going plant-based is it's so hard to explain because like I don't have like cheat days. I do have cheat days or I'll just kind of like eat something like, that's a little higher in calories, but it's always like going to be plant-based. You know what I mean? So it's not like I don't have to, after the photo shoot, you know, like you want to eat like a cheeseburger or French fries or stuff like that. And, you know, that's not something that I would turn to unless it was like a black bean burger maybe. But it's just like a whole lifestyle change. So it's, I don't know, it's different, but it's I have to think about it. And that's what I like about it.
Yeah, I think honestly, well, no other animal goes and counts their macros, and you don't see animals in nature going and saying, "Oh, I only get this many points," unless we're in a food system that's just so unhealthy, and it is unsustainable. I mean, people can only do that for so long. I mean, your mental fatigue and just the frustration of having to do that for a long term it will catch up with everybody at some point, and just all the negative health consequences of a low carb, high fat diet. It's not going to be good with the Atkins diet for sure. Wow,
No.
that's incredible. So as far as you're going through all these life changes, do you mind if I ask how old you are now?
Yeah, I'm 30.
30.
I just turned 30.
Oh, you're young. Okay. So you've been through a lot in the last several years. And so as you're processing this, and you're beautiful and you're smiling and you're happy, but you're talking about the depression and the getting down part. What was it that clicked in your mind that finally said enough is enough? I mean, like, because that's kind of the key point that I always look for with patients or with people that I interview, because maybe there's something there that I can use as a tool to motivate someone else, or say something that will, spark with someone because they can connect and understand. What was that for you? What was that defining moment?
Well, for me, I guess I can't remember like like an actual moment. I just remember thinking to myself, finally, like I have control over my life. Like you are the one that's completely in control of, what you're doing, how you're thinking, how you look at life and how you look at different situations. And I just chose to look at it different. And I was really tired of feeling like I was somebody trapped inside of this like unhealthy body where I couldn't do the things that I really wanted to do. Like I've always loved the idea of hiking, and I've always wanted to be a runner, and I always wanted to be athletic. And I felt like I was just like holding myself back by allowing, depressing thoughts and things like that get to me and turning to like bad food to cope. And I had read a lot. I read this book actually right around the time I read the China study. And I think that honestly, like those two books were put in my life at the same time for a reason. The one book was called Within, and it was a book about mindfulness. And I bought it because it said it was a book about weight loss, love and weight loss. That's what it was. And after reading it, nothing in the book was about weight loss at all. Like it had nothing to do with nutrition. It had nothing to do with diet. It was an interactive book. So at the end of each chapter, like you had to, it asked you like a couple questions, and it was all about like mindfulness and kind of just the fact that you control your thoughts and you control, what you pick up and put in your mouth and what you decide to feed your body. And after I had read that book, it really clicked with me that, okay, like it's time to take control of my life. And I want my life to be this certain way, and I want to be like this. And so I'm going to just start doing things that somebody that does those things already would be doing, and pretend like I'm already there. And eventually maybe it'll just become me. And that's pretty much what happened. I started working out, which felt awkward at first because I didn't work out at all. I barely even walked. I pretty much watched TV and sat on the couch all the time. So it didn't feel right. It felt very awkward at first, but now it's like, that's me and that's my life. And same thing with eating healthy. That was something that felt really awkward, like not getting McDonald's or not going to Wendy's and not eating pizza all the time and deciding to eat a salad or a black bean burger. And it didn't feel right at first. It felt extremely awkward, but I just kept doing it until it became second nature. And I think that was like the key in taking my life back and taking control of what I was doing.
That's really cool. So you envisioned a future self And then you're
Yes.
like, I'm there. I just have to walk the walk and take my journey. Now, it would be great if it was a straight line A to B. Was there ever any like temptations, struggles? What were those, and how did you deal with those components of everyday life? You're tired, your kids are hungry, and you just want to do something. What are those urges and temptations? How did you deal with those?
Yeah, in the beginning, of course, the temptations were really hard. It was hard to go from coping with food to trying to cope with other healthier mechanisms. But that's when I really turned to working out and exercise. And eventually I was able to, when I felt depressed or tired or stressed out or sad, I'd go to the gym or I'd go for a run. And I felt a million times better than I ever did when I would turn to like pizza or, McDonald's or fast food. After I would eat the fast food, that helps me now, just remembering like how you feel after you use that particular coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
But after I would eat, I would just feel so much worse about myself. So it feels great while you're doing it, but then afterwards you're just like even more depressed than you were to begin with, and then it just spirals from there. Whereas when I was working out or exercising, I actually felt better after. Of course, while you're doing it, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's like no pain, no gain type deal, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards it feels so great, and it just totally changes your mindset and your attitude and your outlook and your perspective on everything. And I just kind of remind myself of that when I have temptations to like eat really bad. And because I'm not going to lie, they're still there every once in a while. Sometimes I just want to eat like an entire loaf of bread. And, I'll just remind myself, like, you're going to feel really crappy after you do that, so don't do it. And then I'll just go for a walk or a run. I like to do like more high intensity, cardio. That's what helps me get through like stressful moments or stressful times. But I think anybody could find anything that will really help them get through it, like yoga or meditation. So it's just all about finding new coping mechanisms.
I like it. So you found you remember the feelings and I'm assuming kind of the visceral response you had of after eating bad foods. You felt bad.
Yes.
You used that to repel you. You had your future self. You already envisioned what you wanted and where you were going. So that pulled you. And then, during those temptation moments when you're between these two polar opposite things and you have this moment, this hurdle, this obstacle, you found exercise to relieve yourself. And you use that as these little mini habits almost of dealing with the stress. That's perfect. So you're like every single person I've talked to that has lost, 100 pounds, 200, 300 pounds. Everyone has done this in their own way. They found that mechanism or journey in some unique way. Like, for example, Andrew Taylor, Spud Fit Taylor, that he ate potatoes for a year, but he felt so out of control. He had to do a mono diet to where nothing else would tempt him. He just had to focus just on that. And as I'm talking to him, he's literally reiterating all these, positive psychology stuff that I've been studying because that just fascinates me so much. I was like, how do you people come up with this on you? Because the majority of people can't. Like, what is so special about you and how you're thinking and what, it's just really neat to see. But like you said, I don't believe in coincidence. I feel like God's forces put things where you needed it at that time. And that's the mindfulness practice along with the right diet. And that's what I'm trying to incorporate in lifestyle medicine is that mindset, the positive psychology, along with the tools that I know that will work. That's really cool. That's perfect.
I think that is so huge. And I think that the fact that you're combining them in your practice is amazing, because when I talk about, losing the weight, I talk a lot about plant-based nutrition because that's, what my business is now. But when I talk about the whole losing weight aspect of it, I always make sure to talk about the mindfulness part of it, because that, if you can't change how you think and your perspective on food and life in general, you're never going to be successful at making a lifestyle change like that. And I mean, that's 100% why I was able to get to where I am now and why I'm able to stay where I am right now. And, it's never 100% easy. It gets a lot easier, But I still struggle sometimes. You always have those times or days where you're just like finding it hard to like be really positive. But as long as you just keep trying, like that's what's worked for me. Like I just keep trying, and I have like different mantras. So for me, like when I'm, really stressed out or tired and I want to eat something like really bad, I always say, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels, because it reminds me about how crappy I feel when I eat the bad things and how good I feel after I eat the healthy things. And I'll just repeat that over and over and over, and eventually, and it really works. It works. So yeah,
That is, that's absolutely perfect. And I always look for some type of tag to put on, when I'm creating the image for the podcast, and that'll somehow be incorporated in yours. I love that.
Perfect.
So so now your mission, I mean, as a physician, I know I wanted to help people since I was like 10, I've always wanted to be a doctor. When you decided to become a nurse, now are you incorporating this while you're doing any nursing? Are you using those opportunities to teach patients? Do you have those opportunities? What do you say to them? How do you approach them?
It's pretty easy to pick up on for me, because I never want to be pushy about it, especially or cross any, scope of practice within nursing. So, I like to do it with my patients that are newly diagnosed with cardiovascular disease, or they just went on cholesterol medication, or they're newly diagnosed diabetics, because those are the ones where it's my job to talk a little bit about nutrition, but I just talk a lot of it about nutrition. I've even done, I've made up because when I had one patient, for example, that had just been diagnosed with cardiovascular disease. She was put on, some cardiac meds and some cholesterol medications, and she was having adverse effects from them. And she's like, oh, I just really wish I didn't have to take these. I feel so crappy. So she told me that her doctor didn't talk to her at all about nutrition or diet. So I kind of made up this whole chart of different recipes that she could do that were plant-based. And, I talked to her a lot about plant-based diet. I told her my personal story, showed her pictures so that she could kind of not think oh, I'm just saying this because it's my job. I wanted her to really understand that, I genuinely wanted to help her. And especially because she was having so many issues with her new medications. And, I haven't seen her. It's been probably 6 months since I've seen her. I don't really know, if she stuck to it, but she was doing it. She was making plant-based meals at home. And, it was funny because the nurse that opened her to home care gave her the American Heart Association diet for and it was so wrong. I'm like, all right, we're just not gonna look at that. We're gonna look at this one. And I showed her a couple websites. I showed her Physicians Committee website and Forks Over Knives, which has a lot of really great easy recipes to make. She was living by herself, and she was elderly, but she still cooked, which I thought was great. So it was perfect. She ate a lot of rice and beans and stuff like that, but I try as much as I can, and you can tell when somebody's going to be receptive to it. Working in the community is hard because I work in kind of the lower class part of the community, so it's hard for them to access healthy foods, and it's hard for them to get good produce and things like that. So I try to give them in the little paper that I made. I tried to do recipes where you can do a lot of canned beans and the instant rice and stuff like that. And it seemed to work for some people. So
that's cool. Yeah, it's a tough thing. When I was in Colorado, we actually started a garden outside of a food bank.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I was originally, the guy that ran the food bank, it was a Christian organization, had come to me as a patient and went plant-based, had dramatic improvements. It's like bread and butter anymore. It's everyone gets better. It's you hear these amazing stories yeah, but that's all the time now. It's so cool. Anyways, but what was so incredible was he was running this food bank, and he asked me to teach classes there. And so I did. And then as we were teaching, I was like, well, do you have enough space out there to start a garden? Because I was looking at this food And it was processed food that people do not, donate their box cereals and chips and, SpaghettiOs and whatever food they didn't want, basically. And they did, and they wrote a grant. They got their town council to write a grant application, and that's been going on now, I think probably at least 4 years. And what's really cool is that those people can come and see this is how food is. It's growing, it's getting kids involved, and they still get some of that processed food, but now they're getting fresh food as well. So it was really cool to see that happen. And it just takes, one person to make that change to get started. It's really awesome. So, we talked about some of, how you're coping and in that journey and your mindset and everything. What have you found with people who are ordering these meals? Are these people who heard about you and want to do what you're doing? Were these people who are already, plant-based and just wanting to food? What kind of individuals are coming to you at Kitchen Verde?
Wow, it's funny when I get asked this question, we have like such a wide spectrum of people. I'm so blessed and lucky to live in Rochester because we have a lot of physicians that advocate a plant-based diet. We have a lot of physicians that have gone plant-based, and seen the results themselves. And one of them is actually the chief of cardiology at one of the major hospitals here. And so they send a lot of their patients our way. And then we have Dr. Ted Barnett. He has a CHIP program here. So a lot of his patients come our way. And then same with Dr. Campbell. And then we get, and honestly, like I'd say probably maybe like 85 to 90% of our customers were never vegan and never plant-based. So to me, like that's so huge because that's just amazing. It's one thing if somebody's already been vegan or vegetarian their whole life, that's great that they're trying to go, more plant-based, like the healthy vegan route. But to have customers and people that have never eaten this way and never thought about eating this way, they read an article or, they see something like this, like a podcast, or go on a website or they're on social media and see something about like a plant-based diet and how it's healthier for them. And, they feel they have this service where they can try it and see if it's something that they want to do. Like, to me, that's really awesome that they're coming to us, trying it, and then they're sticking with us, or they're going home and learning how to cook these meals themselves. Like that's why I started it. And that's what I wanted to happen. I wanted everyone to learn about the benefits of a plant-based diet. And I wanted to show people that I experienced it firsthand and share my story. That's why I share my stories, so that people can see and understand that like this is the real deal. Like it can change your life immensely.
So tell us more about the actual operation at Kitchen Verde. So what type of meals you offer, is it frozen? Is it fresh? What exactly are you cooking and how are you delivering? Tell us about the actual operation and what's going on.
Yeah, so we cook all of our meals fresh. We put a new menu up on our website every week, and you can order a la carte. So we have a description of every meal item, so you can kind of pick and choose whatever you'd like and have it delivered to your house every Sunday, or you can pick it up from our store. The menu does change every week, and it's also seasonal. So yeah, it's exciting. We do some catering too here and there, and it's fun.
Wow. So now, is this where you're wanting to go and just get out of nursing completely, or do you think you always have your hands in the nursing pots, so to speak?
I think I'll probably always have my hands in the nursing pot a little bit.
It's fun.
I still love being a nurse.
Yeah.
I think, it's really the healthcare field and helping people. Like you said, I've wanted to do that my entire life. At one point I wanted to be a doctor, and then I wanted to be a nurse, and then I decided to be a nurse, and I love that. And I feel like I have, so much compassion for people, and that's something that I just never want to give up. So. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. So do your kids get in the kitchen and help you, or do you involve their school? I mean, have you done anything like that with them and the little people?
Yeah. They love coming to the kitchen. They ask to come all the time.
That's awesome.
But they also like to eat our muffins because we have like a variety of different muffins. So whenever they come, they eat the muffins, or we have like a guilt-free dessert every week. So they like those too. But yeah, I mean, the kids, I think they feel like proud now when they talk about, oh, I want to go to the Red Fern, or I want to eat a salad, or I want to eat, the black bean burger. Like they actually, like you can see that they feel like pride when they say it, like they're going to make me proud or something. And I think that's so cute.
It is.
But then they'll talk to their friends about it,
and it'll grow like that. My youngest, who's 18 now, he'll be 19 in a few weeks. So wow, I guess he's in his freshman year at college, and he actually enjoyed being the vegan kid in Western college.
Yeah,
so it made it kind of cool for him because trust me, we were the first ones, I'm pretty sure, and the Texas rifle anyway. So that's a whole interesting story. That is really cool. So how did you come up with the name Kitchen Verde? I know it's green.
Oh my gosh. I wish I had like some crazy story about it, but I don't.
Come on, make one up.
I tried so hard for so long to figure out a name for it. And I was just like, well, it's really simple food. And Kitchen Verde was like green kitchen. And I felt like it worked with the type of food because it's simple food, simple name. So,
love it.
And green kitchen didn't sound that great. So Verde is what I went with.
Again, coming from Colorado, probably not so funny. Anything green, you're like, oh man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Everywhere I travel is like, so you're from Colorado. So did you, prescribe marijuana? I was like,
yeah.
No, I did. Can we change this?
Oh, I'm sure.
So when you have people ask you questions and they're like, you lost all this weight, what is the one piece of advice that you like to share with someone? Because you've really seen it, maybe impact people, but what is that one nugget that if you had like, your elevator speech, so to speak, of helping someone to move to a healthier lifestyle or move to a plant-based diet, what would that be?
I always stress habit formation. So everything that you do is a habit that you've formed, and it's hard to break habits and it's hard to learn new habits, but there is a science behind it, because I actually read another book about habit, and that's around the same time. So I tell them, pick like a time frame. 3 weeks seems to be the magic number. Just commit to it for 3 weeks and do it 100%, and just think about it in the whole grand scheme of things. 3 weeks out of your entire lifetime is literally nothing. It's a blink of an eye. And I feel like if you put it into that kind of perspective, they're like, oh yeah, you're right. Like it's really like no time. 3 weeks is like nothing. So, I tell them it's all about the habits that you do and what you do in your daily life. And you just kind of have to be mindful and really conscious of it and determined for a little while, but eventually it becomes a habit and it's like second nature to you. So that's like what I stress the most is habit formation and how the whole science of it works, and just picking, something as simple as like, I'm going to eat oatmeal every single morning, and then it becomes habit. Like I literally eat oatmeal every single morning and I don't even think twice about it. So that's really,
I'm right there with you. Oatmeal, and it's oatmeal, banana, blueberry. Oatmeal, banana,
yes.
blueberry.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and a tablespoon of ground flaxseed to add to. That is always the same.
Berries for sure, blueberries, banana.
Yep, and there's always a Starbucks.
Yeah.
Oatmeal, blueberry, and banana. It's
that easy. And then, along with the habit, like I do like to always stress like having a healthy mind and making sure that you're taking care of like the underlying issue that's making you turn to food for comfort, if that is what your issue is. So that's huge to me. That was really like the tipping point for me myself. So
yeah, I like when I moved here and I was working with Dr. Joel Furman, and we really had intensive psychologists working with our patients as social workers, and the therapies that they were going through, and listening to the deep dive into the stories of why people ate this way. I
Yeah.
didn't have, see, I never had a health issues as far as, like weight gain. So when I went plant-based, it was strictly because a patient got better when I told her to stop eating meat and dairy. I mean, it literally, that was just, it was like it just happened. Well,
Yeah.
God made this happen. But
Hmm.
what was just so intriguing to me is, wow, there's just, I mean, people were telling stories of hiding, and wearing different disguises and sneaking out at night. And then when they were little, they would hide food in their closet because that's the
Hmm.
only thing they had control of.
Yeah.
Everything else around them was spinning out of control, but the one thing they could eat or do is eat and decide what they ate and when they ate it and how much. And it made them feel better in many ways. And then, of course, all the health consequences and stuff. So
Yeah.
really incredible. So I learned a lot about the negative psychology or the general psychology, but what was really interesting more recently, I did an interview with Carolyn Adam Miller, and she wrote the book Getting Grit. And
Hmm.
um, it's the first thing I'd ever heard of positive psychology. And it's the study of well-being, and then instead of looking at the negative consequences of the psychology of treating the negative, which we have a place for that, but it's the same thing in healthcare. We treat the negative. What's the first thing your doctor asks you when you walk in? Oh, what's wrong today? Your blood pressure is too high. Your cholesterol is out high. It's never, hey, what went well this week? And I
Right.
think as you're using lifestyle medicine and I started teaching people more about nutrition, that conversation that I was having with patient changed, and I realized how much more fun it was. I didn't even realize what it was, but there's actually a name for it. It's called positive health. So you're actually turning around, you're focusing on the positive. So what did you do this week? You look great. That was the first initial interaction. The rest of the appointment was much, I always had good rapport with my patients, but it seemed like that just really just energized
Oh,
the
I'm sure.
and the relationship with the patients just became so much deeper. It's so much more fun.
Yeah.
But I like the positive spin on it. Now we're studying, for about 20 years or now, I guess, or so, there's been this study of what allows humans to thrive. And it's so fascinating. I'm just utterly, and it's my whole new thing. My husband said I can't get any more degrees though. I can't go back to school. Really?
I would love to go to school forever. I say it all the time. Like if I could get paid to go to school, I'd be
Right.
set.
Right. I said, it's just, I already have a bachelor's, a master's, and now the India's like, it's just another master's. Like, this would be so good for me. Like, no.
Help everything.
Your daughter is in medical school now. You two in we can't do this. Stop it. So, all right, fine. I ordered all the textbooks of this one place. Yeah, it's bad. Anyway, so
That is so interesting though. Like the
it's
positive psychology.
oh my
I'm
goodness.
very only because I've used it without knowing that it was actually really a thing. And now
Right.
like it's just so interesting to me.
Okay, so you have to go. There's this thing called the VIA Institute. It's Values and Action Institute, but what it does is it studies the character strengths. So what they've done, okay, now I'm going to dive deep into this with you a little bit.
Oh, I love it.
They've divided life into like these different virtues of like wisdom and humanity and whatever. And there are these character strengths that feed into those. And there's 24 of them. You can go and take this free survey and find out what your character strengths are and rank them in order. And then you can use those 4 or 5 to really focus on, like, if you have a challenge or want to improve something else using your strengths. And they teach you how to do that to do it instead of trying to do it a wrong way. Well, why would I want to use, one of my lower strengths when I have these other strengths, and I could achieve something much easier if I use my natural strength. And it was really interesting. So I've had my whole family take it. Like I send it to everybody, and they're like, I need to know your strengths. So I just need to understand you. My husband and I are complete opposites, which is really interesting. Been married almost
Oh wow.
25 years. It's fascinating. I feel sorry for him. And
Well, opposites attract, right?
yeah, but I'm a handful sometimes. But it's really interesting. I would love to hear what yours are. Yeah, and so it's
Yeah.
just really cool. There's some really neat stuff. And I think if we can get doctors, this is kind of my new thing now, to understand you can do this in a short period of time, and that the changing the wording instead of, the vital signs, blood pressure, I think have them take this test and see what those are, so you can speak to them and encourage them and understand. It's just a few tools. I'm sure it goes much deeper. I'm still in the surface of my studying of all this, but it's incredible. It's very fascinating.
It's really interesting. You said it's VIA?
VIA, yeah, VIA Institute, but I think it's the VIA. Just look up VIA survey. Yes. Okay. Yes.
All right.
That's 120. You totally have to send me your strengths, and I'll send you.
I will. I'll text them.
Awesome. Perfect. I love it. Oh, goodness. So, at the end, bless your heart, I've taken up a lot of your time. And we've had quite the time of just even scheduling and making sure I know this on the airport. So I really appreciate you being patient with me. But I like to, at the end of the podcast, just acknowledge you and say thank you, because you've gone one more step. It's one thing to improve your own health and to enjoy those benefits, the ripple effects within your family and your close family and friends. But you've taken it another step. You share it with your patients, and now you're actually providing a service so people don't have to think about it, because that's the biggest hurdle. One of the biggest hurdles, besides the habit formation, is how do I cook like this? Because people freak out. They think, if you don't include meat as the middle of your dish, they're like, what am I going to eat?
What do you do? I know.
And it's really funny how we all think that. But it really is incredible. But you've provided this incredible service out of, I think, again, like you were saying, compassion, and you're caring and loving for others. So thank you. And I want to say thank you for those who may not be able to say thank you. And you never know who you're going to inspire by all the, the article in People Magazine, this podcast, and who knows. So that's really awesome. And so I wish you only the best.
Well, thank you. I mean, what you do is really awesome. I mean, this whole I love your podcast. So I told Joel that. I was like, you're friends with Lori? I love her new podcast.
That is so weird for me. The reason I started this is because I wanted a place to chronicle the stories of people that I would meet and doctors, so I could say, okay, go listen to podcast 24. Okay.
Yeah.
She had lupus. She lost 300 pounds. This is a doctor that did this. And it just turned into, really, now it's just my excuse to meet really cool people.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, I've seen some of your interviews. So.
They're way cool. And I'm like,
they are.
Can I get paid to do this? Because this is really fun. Maybe someday.
To go to school forever and do podcast interviews. It's really cool.
I figure it's a service. So eventually maybe I'll make money. My husband would probably be happy with that. But oh, bless his heart. He's become the focus of our conversation.
He sounds like a real trooper.
He is. He's a real sweetheart. Oh, God. But wow, this has been so much fun. And Sarah, again, thank you so much. And if ever, you start delivering down in the Florida region, I'll have to definitely try that out if ever I'm up in New York. I did make it to Woodstock. I went to the Esselstyn farm.
You did? That is like my next goal in life.
That is the coolest place. I'm like, I think some of the hippies never left, though.
Yeah.
There's a really good vegan restaurant.
Bad.
Oh, you got to go see. It's amazing. The Woodstock is really interesting, but there's a really interesting vegan restaurant. It's really good food there too. And the name of it's left me at the moment, but the Esselstyn farm is incredible. It was it was a neat experience to just, just to be in the presence of an amazing family.
Yeah.
But, because I don't have the benefit of that, but that was just to see, that was a really cool thing. So, but thanks again for your time, and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm like honored that you asked me to do this. So,
are you kidding? I was just excited that you did it. Thank you so much. Wow. But again, thanks so much. And someone told me I had to slow down they mentioned a comment on the YouTube, it's like, slow down your speech. I'm like, how do I get so excited? I
know, I do the same thing. I get really hyper when I get excited.
And then I start giggling. Oh my goodness. So
obviously I do the same thing.
So there'll be a lot of giggling editing, or maybe we'll just leave it. Maybe other
Yeah,
people will
why not?
giggle
Maybe
too.
it'll make someone laugh. Who knows?
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, again, thank you so much, and I appreciate all your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me on here. It's awesome.